Thank you, Warren. My brother Jack, who's sitting toward the back, observed after that election so long ago, Doug came dangerously close to winning. Jack is regarded as the person who has given the greatest speech ever in this building, including the ministers who were here every Sunday before it became the home of the Historical Society. June 1955, hundreds of Jacksonville sixth grade patrol boys standing on the steps of the U.S. Capitol in full patrol boy uniform to have their group picture taken with their young U.S. Congressman, Charlie Bennett. A school represented in this picture was West Riverside Elementary. One of its patrol boys was me. I shook the hand of that congressman, a 10 years earlier war hero. He was surely among the greatest men you and I will ever have had the chance to encounter. 48 years later, I would give the eulogy at his funeral. As the sun rises daily over our part of the Atlantic, hundreds of species of wildlife, waterfowl, animals, creatures above and below water level will awaken and begin their foraging yet another day through and within lands and streams which have been viewed with awe and wonder for millennia. 10,000 years ago, man arrived on the peninsula we now call Florida. These first residents principally migrated from the northwestern region of modern-day North America, having originally crossed the ice bridge from Asia. These were nomadic people, typically following game for their sustenance. Scientists tell us that this northwesterly to southeasterly migration progressed at the rate of about 17 miles per generation. Our wonderful peninsula, including the majestic St. Johns River, has been covered by the ocean for certain 3 times, and perhaps as many as 23 times. We may very well be the last part of the U.S. to emerge from the sea, which obviously makes us the youngest part of the U.S. These early nomads, deeply spiritual worshipers of the cosmic tree faith, tended first to settle south of here, for the most part locating on high ground around modern-day New Smyrna Beach. There's a natural ridge which runs in a southeasterly to northwesterly direction up through north-central Florida, Alachua, Suwannee, and Columbia counties, and then on up into Georgia. In fact, when you travel west on Interstate 10, you get over even with Lake City and Live Oak, and you'll notice a considerable roll in the interstate, which is the extension of that high ground natural ridge. Over centuries, many of these earliest Floridians then began to move back in a northerly direction, somewhat typical of what's going on in Florida today. Coming into our region, they lived everywhere. After all, over 10,000 years, they could have lived everywhere in all of Northeast Florida. But principally and logically, they were content along the banks of our wonderful, northerly flowing, anomaly-like river, the St. Johns. These early settlers were the forerunners of the Timucuan. Over the millennia, civilizations developed among these now permanent residents with definite and varied cultures. Life in this pristine, unmatched environment is fairly easy to create a mind picture about, given the unique and in many ways unmatched natural resources which are so abundant in our land, both then and now. The St. Johns River has always flowed north, making it unique among the world's rivers. Defying natural laws, it and only a few others travel in that direction. During its 3 million years, there has always been the entry connecting river and sea that we know about, but that's not the only opening which has existed connecting those bodies over all those 3 million years. There have been at least 3 others, clearly noticeable, lying in a section due east of modern-day Julington Creek and in 2 or 3 other places between there and Daytona Beach. It was on April 30th, 1562, that French Huguenots, led by Jean Ribault, for whom the local high school Ribault is named, sailed into our river in search of religious freedom, effectively claiming the land for France, following a similar claim by Spain almost 50 years earlier, when Juan Ponce de Leon, who, incidentally, had been a crew member for Christopher Columbus years before, landed south of what's now Jacksonville Beach, laying claim for Spain. Over the centuries, the Native Americans had divided into 6 or more major groups with numerous subgroups. Principal among these was the Timucua. The Timucua who lived in the area ranging from modern-day Brevard County well up into Georgia, as well as the Colusa, the Appalachia, Tequesta, and others. The Seminoles arrived early in the 18th century. As these Frenchmen arrived, sailing into our river on the day before May 1st, the day before May Day, hence River May or Stream of May, and later Mayport, they encountered the Timucua in their complex, deeply spiritual Indian society with specific economic, social, and political characteristics. There were governing, religious, and warrior classes with skilled and hard-working vast numbers, constructing sophisticated projects, requiring great lengths of time so to do. Ribault placed a stone pillar on the riverbank with his name, the date, and the arms of France on it, and shortly thereafter departed. A replica, as we all know, is found today at St. John's Bluff. In 1564, René de Laudonnière followed Ribault, sailing to Florida in 3 ships with 300 men and women. They arrived on June 22nd and were welcomed by the Timucua. Laudonnière selected a colony site several miles inland from the mouth of the St. Johns, naming it Fort Caroline, where the first European child in North America was born. Among the colonists was the artist Jacques Lemoyne, who had been commissioned by the French government to prepare an account of what he saw in this great new world. The writings and drawings of Lemoyne and Laudonnière are the earliest and best accounts of the land and its natives in northeast Florida. After the 1492 voyage of Christopher Columbus, the Spanish extended their explorations and their knowledge. Hence, enter Florida. Europe was in an expansion mode, requiring new trade routes and exploration. This included a search for a new passageway to India. It's interesting to note, having gone through that, the assessment of one historian. France took quick advantage of such Spanish indecision. After all, reasoned Catherine de' Medici, Queen Mother of France, had not French fishermen fished off the coast of America for many years before the Spanish had made any efforts there? So the French called the eastern seaboard of Northern America by the name of New France. Jean Ribault led an expedition that visited the lower St. Johns River and went on to establish a small colony on Port Royal, South Carolina in 1562. This historian goes on. France dispatched René de Laudonnière in 1564 with a colony of several hundred settlers to what is now Jacksonville, Florida. There they founded La Caroline, named for Charles IX, boy king of France. When these French settlers came, there were no settlements of Europeans anywhere in what is now the United States. That was never again